And, when we met with Carlos Annacondia and then found out about his wife praying under the platform
Yeah.
with other ladies.
Talk about that. What did
That
they
was,
do?
they said that was the secret
They'd
to
call you
what
over, right?
God
They go,
was doing.
do you want to know the secret? Right?
Yes,
Talk about
yes.
that.
And so they call me over and take me over to the platform,
Right.
pull the skirt away,
Right.
to open it up. And you see all of these ladies under there wailing before God, wailing that God would move in people's lives,
What?
that he would transform them. They were weeping for the
Jesus.
lost. And
So he's
and I said,
preaching and they're underneath where he's preaching.
yes, yes, under the platform.
What? That's awesome.
No air conditioning,
Oh.
hot, everybody's sweaty. And and
Can God hear you when you're sweating and clammy and all that?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And but that's what, that stirred in me a
Wow.
desire to pray. And I knew that if I was on the trip, then I was praying. And
Right.
if I was not on the trip, I was praying. And I knew that my prayers were being carried to
Yeah.
wherever the services were going on, whatever God was doing.
Right.
And I could go into story upon story of intercessory prayer and how God moved. I'm just
This is no, no,
different
no.
trips. Things come to my mind and I try to stay focused.
Right. Well, I want to, because you're talking about Carlos, and when Steve was on Sid Roth, I want you to see, because Maria, right? Carlos's wife was Maria, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when they were praying, you have to understand what she's saying. She's saying that they prayed, he preached, and God moved. And when they saw
Yes.
this, listen to what she's talking about. When Steve was on Sid Roth, he's talking about it on Sid Roth. Take a look at this.
Tell me, when you saw Carlos Annacondia.
Well, we lived there for 7 years during the peak of the Argentine revival, and it's still moving on. God's still moving. We saw churches go from 500 to 20,000. Just amazing. My wife and I planted 13 churches, built an orphanage. But Carlos Annacondia, when I got around him, and los que hablan español también hablo español, and those that speak Spanish, I speak Spanish fluent. My wife and I lived there 7 years. But Carlos was this insane. And if you're watching Carlos, that's a respectful word for you, okay? Just, he was insane for the things of God. And he's a man that owns a nuts and bolts factory. And so anyone that feels like you're common, okay, look at this man. And I went to one of his crusades in a nutshell, brother, because we could talk all day about this man. Went to his crusade, 20, 30,000 people out in an open field, bunch of light bulbs hanging, just naked light bulbs hanging everywhere. No big fanfare, just this man that had authority.
Come out!
He had authority over darkness. And I would watch him in front of tens of thousands of people. And he would go, En el nombre de Jesucristo de Nazaret, in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Teato Satanas, I bind you, Satan. And as far as the eye could see, people were hit by the power, thrown to the ground. People that were walking down the sidewalks, not even paying attention to him, would be thrown to the ground, start shaking under the power. And I saw this and I went, Jesus, whatever this man has. Jesus, Peter's shadow healed the sick. And this is the closest thing I've ever seen to that. I want what he has. And you better get hungry, my friend. If you want to be used of God, you got to have a hunger. You got to have a craving for that. And I got that.
Oh,
Jesus,
my
Jesus, Jesus.
goodness. Yikes. I love you guys so much. I can feel it when I'm talking to you. I can feel it when I'm just hearing him. I felt it, obviously, when I was with him. When you're in love with Jesus
Yes.
and you find
yes,
somebody
yes,
that
yes.
loves him too,
Yeah.
and it's just like, we're here for you. No, we're here for you. We want you to get saved. So when you're saying they're praying, when Maria and the ladies are praying under the stage, they say, come over here, I'm going to show you the secret. And they went under the stage, pull back the skirt. That's what was happening on top of the stage.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And we were there in a place that stirred the hunger of God more in our lives. There was more. We knew there was more.
Right.
And I remember walking in on Steve one day, it was in 91, and he was in his room, and it was normal for us to be praying. But he was laid out in the office, and he was crying out to God, and he was naming and saying things to God. And he said, God, I know how to do this. And he's just doing a list of things
Right.
that I could give a list of things that he did, that he was able and capable of doing. And then something bellowed out of him. He was weeping. And he said, but God, I don't want to do it in my own strength. I want you to do it through me.
Right.
And when he said that, it was like the Holy Spirit hit me in the gut.
Yeah, I feel it right now.
And I didn't go in and kneel down next to Steve. I didn't want to interrupt what he what was happening between him and God. And I stepped out of the room and I sat down at the top of the stairs, tears running down my face. And I waved my hands and I said, yes, God,
Yes.
do it through him, Jesus. Do it through him, Jesus.
Lord.
Yes, do it through him.
Yes.
And it's so important for us to be, two are better than one.
Right. Right.
And it's so important to be on the same page and wanting more of God, wanting to reach out, wanting to give of ourselves,
Right.
to let the world know how important Jesus is to us.
Right.
And I remember just a few days later, Steve was going to Curico, Chile.
Oh, yeah.
And he had so many obstacles that were, he tried to go up the mountain 5 different times, I think. And every time you went up a different road, he hit a mountain of snow and could not pass through.
An avalanche. Oh,
It wasn't an avalanche. It was just a pile of
Yeah.
snow on top of the mountain.
Okay.
And he went down. Each time he had to go back down and drive a little further, look for another road. But he ran across this man and he said, we cannot pass over the Andes Mountains. How do we pass over? And he said, the only way is to put your vehicle, it was a pickup truck with a cab on it. And he had 3 people in the front and a drama team in the back.
I love it.
Put the truck up on a railroad track that went through the mountain, like 5 miles.
Wow.
And the thump, all the way through. They did it. They put it up there and they drove through. And the guy said, you have to pray there isn't a train coming, because I couldn't tell you when the train comes.
Oh, goodness.
And they get through. And then when they get on the other side, there's a sleet storm and they had a flat tire. And Steve, when he finally arrives in Curico, Chile, which he should have been there within 5 hours if you'd been able to cross over the mountain.
Wow.
But because it took longer, it was quite a while before I heard from him. This is before cell phones.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't get a call from him until he gets to the hotel. And he tells me this story. And he said, I told the team that for us to be going through all of this, all these obstacles, it must mean that God is really going to move.
Right. Right. Wow.
And we get over there, and this is...
Say it again. So all these obstacles, the difficulty is the proof that God's about to move.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
How many people quit when the difficulties come in?
How many of us do?
Yeah.
And we have to keep pressing forward. And so he gets there and he said, honey, we set up in the Central Park. He said, people, this was after he prayed, God, I don't want to do it in my own strength. I want you to do it through me. Does that mean that we're not going to ever experience any obstacles and roadblocks, and we have to pass through, we have to push through to be able to get to the other side? And he said, honey, people would be walking through this here Central Park and we'd say, why are you stopping? Why are you? They said, my feet are glued to the cement.
What? Oh my goodness.
They could not move.
What?
And they just would drop their briefcases.
Come on,
and they
God.
could not move.
Yes.
Steve would cars would be drawn into the Central Park to see what was going on. Steve would get in one car, lead everybody in the car to Jesus, get out the other side of the door, go into the next car, and lead people to Jesus. He kept doing this over and over and over while they were singing in the Central Park, while they were doing dramas in the Central Park. People who lived above the stores would be drawn to their windows, opening the windows, wanting to know what was going on. God was moving.
I love it. Oh my goodness. How many give up, when there's,
I know.
right now in America, people are giving up. It's like, this is the time for the harvest, right? This is the moment and time for the harvest. I love what you said, Steve said to you at one particular point when y'all were talking about what you're talking about, where he said, it's not about an easy life. It's not about a dedicated life. It's about a dedicated life. It's about a committed life. It's about dying to ourselves so that we can proclaim the gospel, because people are dying in their sins and they need to be rescued.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Who's not thinking about that? I mean, that is the thing that we need to be thinking about, is that people. I just had a funeral. I just preached a funeral on Friday.
Jesus.
And and I was talking to everybody. I said, listen, you don't know that the person next to you may be preaching your funeral tomorrow. You don't even know that. You didn't know that I was going to be here at this particular moment. And you're right now, there's people watching this right now, Jeri. They're watching us right now. They don't realize that only God knows that time and that moment, right?